Hello, freshmen. This reading is called Tensions in the Neolithic. It's a supplement to what we've done in class in relation to the Neolithic Revolution, or the Agricultural Revolution. As I read through this, I would like for you to review information and highlight information that you know, underline, make margin notes, whatever is best for you. And also, think about this discussion question, which we will turn into an in-class debate. Was the Neolithic Revolution beneficial for all? Another question, is it okay to benefit the larger group while some others suffer in this whole agricultural revolution? Anyway, let's begin. And I want you to think of connections to today as well as we go through this. Also, circle any words you don't know. We can discuss those together. And we will start with the preface. Most scholars regard the agricultural revolution, the process by which human beings learned to cultivate plants rather than simply gather their food from wild plants, as the single most important change in history. From this change flowed virtually everything else that has made the society in which we live: food production, sufficient support growing populations, new gender relationships, the impetus to develop more efficient tools, villages and cities, trade and money, economic divisions into rich and poor, government, wars, the leisure, and money to support the arts. The list could go on and on. But as Professor D. Brendan Nagel of the University of Southern California argues in the following selection, there was a price for this progress. So the preface does a good job to set us up for what we are going to do in class. Again, we're going to try to debate this. What was the price worth it? Was the price for the process worth it? You can see what developed from the Neolithic Revolution. Do you think it's the single most important change in history from what you know of history? And we'll have these discussions in class. So here we go. Hunters and gatherers place a low value on possessions and a high value on mobility. Always on the move, they carry only a few tools and weapons with them. Agriculture reverses this way of life. It cannot be practiced without a commitment to permanence and the accumulation of large amounts of material goods. Homes, villages, and storage facilities have to be constructed, fields cleared and divided and fenced, herds built up and maintained, and implements and tools fabricated. Constant effort is required to maintain all of these. Once settled, farmers may not move again for generations. Pastoralists are equally committed to their flocks and herds. For practical purposes, hunting and gathering bands always remain small, in the range of approximately 30 to 50 people. Larger groups would have been difficult for most environments to sustain. Smaller ones could not reproduce themselves. Agriculture, by contrast, knew no limits insofar as population growth was concerned. Thus, where hunting-gathering bands restricted their numbers, agricultural communities tended to expand them. Children could be put to work in fields and gardens at an early age, and at harvest time, it was essential to maximize the number of people who could be mobilized. Overpopulation, solved by emigration and opening up new lands for cultivation by about 6000 BCE, villages with populations in the thousands were common throughout the Middle East. The growth of population and the accumulation of material goods forever changed the way human beings lived. Under hunting and gathering conditions, a rough egalitarianism prevailed. No one had or needed any more than anyone else. What was the point of accumulating things that could not be carried from place to place during long nomadic treks? In the settled conditions of agriculture, however, this was not the case. Now there was a point, and an incentive, to expand one's possessions, whether farm or flock. Wealth was its own self-evident justification. Material goods could be accumulated, enjoyed during one's lifetime, and then passed on to the next generation. With the agricultural revolution, inequality became, for the first time, an aspect of human conditions, since not everyone could be equally successful in the quest for material possessions. The new way of life had a powerful impact on gender relations. With the introduction of agriculture, the role and status of women changed. It is estimated, for instance, that in some present-day hunting and gathering groups, women contribute over 70% of the daily food supply, and as a result have a higher status than their counterparts in agrarian societies. In hunting and gathering bands, children are usually spaced at 3 to 4 year intervals by means of late weaning, whereas in agricultural societies, women have frequent pregnancies and spend more time caring for small children. Finally, men dominate agriculture wherever it involves the use of the plow and herding. As their roles changed and they lost the ability to contribute directly to the economic well-being of the community, the status of women declined. Another factor in contributing to this decline was the emergence of a form of public life. In hunting and gathering bands, there was little need for the exercise of authority. Everyone was related to everyone else, and everyone knew each other intimately. Conflicts could be resolved informally, and this change with the development of large villages were more formal and less personal methods of administering justice and maintaining order became necessary. Men easily assumed the new roles of judges, which complemented their responsibility for defending villages from outside marauders and policing the more unruly members of the village community. The power of coercion and patriarchal control went hand in hand. The realm of justice, administration, and warfare was defined as an arena of public concern under male control, in opposition to and superior to the private realm of the family and the household, to which women, along with children, servants, and for the first time slaves, were assigned. This distinction between public and private realms is a key to understanding all of ancient society. The results of the agricultural revolution were thoroughly mixed. It's usually regarded as a great leap forward for humankind, and as indeed it is a focus only on its ability to provide large food surpluses and to create new and more varied jobs for men. But in other respects, it posed a challenge. It posed challenges in terms of cooperation and the ownership of goods that have never been adequately solved. Apart from its lowering the status of women, the agricultural way of life created new stresses and tensions for everyone. Herds and farms had to be maintained. There could be no relaxation in the task. There were new sources of friction over boundary lines, possessions, and the equitable distribution of goods and responsibilities. Relations between men and women and between children and their parents changed. New relations between haves and have-nots, masters and servants, owners and non-owners, freemen and slaves came into being. Warfare was now a much more serious business than it was in the past. There was now something worth fighting over, beyond mere disputes about hunting territory. There was booty worth taking in the form of movable goods, and people who could be put to work for their new masters. Herds and farms could be appropriated and their previous owners enslaved. It is undoubtedly true that plain superiority in force allowed agriculturists to overwhelmingly hunting, gathering peoples everywhere in the world. It was not a peaceful process. Even in not direct confrontation, agriculturalists always encroached aggressively on the territories of hunters and gatherers. Rapid population growth was solved by the expedient of encouraging surplus population to move on into the territories of hunters and gatherers. And all of the sustained confrontations between agriculturalists and hunters and gatherers, the latter have always lost. Today, what was one of the only way of life for the human race is practiced by a tiny, ever-shrinking percentage of people in the most distant and inaccessible parts of the globe. In the great sweep of human history, the only other two events that can be compared to the agricultural revolution in the terms of their capacity to revitalize human relations are the state and urban revolution and the industrial age revolution, the age in which we live. Okay, that was the reading, Tensions in the Neolithic. Again, our discussion points are going to be, is this author really conveying the true impact of the Neolithic Revolution? Do you agree with this author and his designation of gender roles in society being formed through the Neolithic Revolution? Is this the most important change in history? Could we compare it to the other changes in history that this author discussed in the Urban Revolution and the Industrial Age Revolution? Are there other revolutions in history or changes in history that we could have a discussion on that would rival those two changes or rival the change of the Agricultural Revolution? Did the Agricultural Revolution, did the Neolithic Revolution cause wealth and the idea of wealth? Did the Neolithic Revolution cause more problems than it actually solved? Is hunting and gathering a way of life that humans can sustain? These are all going to be discussion questions for us. I want you to think about them, Pause as you go through those questions, make some margin notes. In order to get full credit on this assignment, I should see margin notes. I would say 8 to 10 margin notes, no less than 8, no more than 10 margin notes. I should see circled words, most likely 4 or 5 words circled because of to get clarification on their meaning, and also some opinions to those questions I just listed. So you must have those 3 things in order to get credit for this, and we will discuss this on Monday.